Welcome to CBJ in 30.
I'm sure this will be a real bonding experience. Maybe one day, one of you will even write a book about it in jail.
You give us 30 minutes, and we'll give you all you want to know about your Columbus Blue Jackets and the NHL.
Okay, guys, show us what you got.
Now here's your host, who has a few opinions of his own.
Well, Lottie frickin' da!
Bob McElligott.
Woke up this morning feeling fine. There's something special on my mind. Last night I met a new girl in the neighborhood. Whoa, yeah. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something. Something tells me I'm into something good. Something tells me I'm into something good. Oh, yeah.
I would definitely say there's something good, if not something great, going on with the Blue Jackets right now after their 1-0 victory last night at Nationwide Arena against the Minnesota Wild. Welcome to CBJ in 30. I'm Bob McElligott. The Blue Jackets went out last night, and they basically did everything right. They had to do everything right. They were playing in a game where there was no margin for error, and they didn't commit any errors. Oh, it looked like they did at one point in time. It looked like the Minnesota Wild had gotten a goal, but then that was looked at in Toronto, and it was overturned, and so even that seemed to be a mistake. It wasn't a mistake at all. Sergei Bobrovsky, perfect last night, as he kept every shot that he faced out of the net. Brandon Saad got the only goal. That was all that mattered last night, as the Blue Jackets put it all together in that defeat of Minnesota. You know, Minnesota had come into the game yesterday, and I told you this on yesterday's show. They were concerned about their defense. They had given up a combined total of 9 goals in the 2 previous games, so their defense was something they were very much concerned about. Now, they got wins in those games because they had scored a total of 11 goals to the 9 that they gave up, so they got through them, but they didn't like how they were giving up so many chances to opposing teams. But last night, they didn't have a problem with their defense. Neither team had a problem with its defense. They just had a problem with one little shot that wound up squeaking its way behind Devan Dubnyk. But what a fun game it was to watch. And to me, if you look at the Montreal game on Tuesday and the Minnesota game last night, those were 2 fantastic games. One of them ends the way the Blue Jackets wanted to, and the other one ends the way they don't want it to, but they still get a point out of it. So, but they're just fantastic games. They are tight-checking games. There's a lot of rushes. There's a lot of scoring chances, but there's great goaltending, and it was just fun to watch. And again, yes, more fun to watch when your team wins than when they don't win. I get that, but there was just a sense of business about the Blue Jackets last night and the way that they approached the game, the way that they played the game, right down to the final horn. And you can be very calm in your approach and very calm in your play when your goaltender is playing the way that Sergei Bobrovsky is. I had said that I thought Tuesday's game in Montreal was maybe the best game I've ever seen him play. Yesterday was close. I still think Tuesday was better. He had some incredible acrobatic saves on Tuesday. But last night, he was still on top of his game, made some big saves. He makes those saves at key times, and that really just sets the tone. We've talked about it for years with this team. The reason this team is built around Sergei Bobrovsky is because he drives it, and he can make a big save early in the game, and his teammates respond off of that save, and they go to work, and they go to work hard. They see how hard he's working night in and night out. They see how hard he's working on every shot that he faces, and they don't want to let him down. And when he plays at the top of his game, they play at the top of their game. And that was on full display last night at Nationwide Arena. I had a chance to catch up with Sergei Bobrovsky in the dressing room after last night's win.
I asked Torts the other night if you're getting better and better, and he said that's his job to play like that. Do you feel like you're doing your job at a high level right now?
Well, I don't think about, so I just try to prepare myself for each game and help my teammates as much as I can.
Bob, these games, they're a lot of fun, aren't they? The ones that they're tight like this. It's almost a playoff atmosphere in here tonight.
Yeah, the atmosphere were great. Fans were great as usual, I would say, and it was fun to play.
And a pretty important win because you're going on the road for the next two in a back-to-back situation. So these home points are really important down the stretch, aren't they?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But I would say that each point right now is really important to get to build the confidence in the room, to feel the wins here, and keep going and going.
You just talked a moment ago about your teammates and the blocking the shots, and it seems like that's picking back up again. Guys are really sacrificing the body in front of you, aren't they?
Yeah, they were great. So that's as I said before, that some moments you can see that from the stands, but I see from the net when I can see, and they made the block, and it's a great feeling, and I really appreciate them for that.
No doubt the shot blocking last night cannot be overlooked. Everybody was doing it, and I'll tell you who had a big one. And he also had a big game, even though he didn't have any points to show for it, and that's Alexander Wenberg. I thought he was terrific last night. The way he played with a bit of a physical edge. He was blocking shots. He was doing all kinds of things really well. David Savard doing the things that he does night in and night out. Jack Johnson was once again dominant in that game last night for the Blue Jackets. All the guys that you expect to step up in big-time situations, well, they came and they were big-time players last night. And, they don't have a lot to show for it except a lot of bumps and bruises today. There weren't points to dish out last night. There was nothing but the satisfaction of knowing that you laid it all out on the line and that you got a victory in the process. And that's what the Blue Jackets did last night. And as many times it goes in a game like that where it's 1-0 and it's a great battle between goaltenders and the team defense on both sides is doing the job and locking down and making it tough to get to the net, forcing bad angle shots, all that stuff. Well, many times it ends with a goal that is scored that, well, probably shouldn't have been scored. One kind of a fluky goal, and that's what the Blue Jackets got last night. Brandon Saad rushing in on the right wing side, takes a shot. It hits off Ryan Suter's stick, kind of floats to the net. Devin Dubnyk can't hang on to it, and then Brandon Saad, following his own shot, goes in, gets another whack at it, and has just enough to push it all the way across the goal line, and that was it. That's the only score, well, the only score that counted in the entire game. I talked with Brandon Saad about that right afterwards.
Brandon, the importance of following up your shot to the net. If you think he makes a save and you don't keep going, maybe you don't get the goal. But it was just that kind of game. Nobody was going to quit at any point here tonight, were they?
Yeah, that's for sure. It was a patient hockey game. Both teams leaving it all on the ice, and just trying to get ugly at the net and snuck one in.
When that puck comes off, at what point did you see it and know, hey, I got a second chance at this?
Well, I know it got deflected going in, so it was tough for him to read. Just continuing on going to the net, and it kind of fell there, try to get a stick on it, and somehow find a way in for me.
How big is it to win a game like this? I mean, there's so many measuring sticks, tight checking, it's getting late in the year, and going up against a team that had the second best point total in the league coming in here. They really wanted to get back at you guys for what you did to them back on New Year's Eve. So to overcome all of that, how big is this?
It's huge, especially after last game, going through what we did, playing a good hockey game, and ended up falling short in overtime. This way it was the other way around, so ball played great again. That's huge for our team, and we're excited to get the 2 points.
Kind of helped that you're in the same kind of game, 2 in a row. I mean, you're just right back at it. It was like 6 of the same periods.
Yeah, I think we talk about it in the room at this time of the year, leading up to playoffs, teams are going to get tighter checking. So for us, it's just sticking to our structure, playing a full 60 minutes, and good things will happen for us.
That Brandon Saad goal, by the way, was his 19th of the season. With the victory, the Blue Jackets get their 40th win of the year. For Sergei Bobrovsky, he gets the victory, making 38 saves. He had his 16th career shutout recorded last night, and that was his 33rd win of the season. That is a career high for him. So a big night all around in many different ways for the Blue Jackets. So we know what the Blue Jackets did last night. Let's take a look at what else went on in the NHL. The Washington Capitals won the same way that the Blue Jackets did last night. They got a third-period goal, and Braden Holtby got a shutout as the Caps blanked the New Jersey Devils by the score of 1-0. It was another one-goal game in Boston. This time the New York Rangers able to get a pair of goals in the third period, and they beat the Boston Bruins by the score of 2-1. The Philadelphia Flyers were at home taking on the Florida Panthers. That's an important game because it has wild card playoff implications. That one goes to a shootout, and the Flyers end up winning it in the shootout by the score of 2-1. Also last night, Buffalo doubled up the Arizona Coyotes, winning in Buffalo 6-3. Montreal able to pull out a 2-1 win at home over the Nashville Predators on the night that P.K. Subban returns to Montreal for the first time since being traded to Nashville. The Ottawa Senators also a 2-1 winner last night over the Colorado Avalanche. It was the Islanders outlasting the Dallas Stars. 5-4 was the final in that game. The LA Kings got a shootout win at home over the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-2, and the San Jose Sharks beat the Vancouver Canucks by the final of 3-1. So how does that affect the standings in the NHL? Well, I'll tell you right now. The Blue Jackets, with that win, coupled with the Penguins' loss the day before, the Blue Jackets now pull 2 points ahead of the Penguins. Washington stays atop the Metropolitan Division and atop the league with 93 points. The Blue Jackets check in second with 86. Pittsburgh is third with 84, but they are now tied with the New York Rangers after the Rangers win last night. Rangers still in a wild card spot right now with 84 wins, but the Rangers are only in that wild card spot by a tiebreaker. So things are tightening in the Metropolitan Division once again. Over in the Atlantic, Montreal has themselves 80 points. That's a 6-point lead on the Ottawa Senators, who have 74. Boston has 72 points for the final guaranteed playoff spot in that division. And that second wild card spot right now at the moment belongs to the New York Islanders, who hold it over with a tiebreaker over the Toronto Maple Leafs, as the Maple Leafs also have 70 points. But there's Florida. They've got 69 points. Philadelphia back in the conversation now with 67 points. You've got Tampa with 66 points. And to me, that's where you draw the line. Buffalo's 5 points back at 65, and then it drops off. New Jersey with 62. Carolina and Detroit each have 60 points. But, Toronto, Florida, Philadelphia, maybe Tampa. Definitely those first three are in the conversation. And even the Philadelphia Flyers, that's even though it's 3 points, it starts to become a tougher conversation with every game that goes by. Over in the Western Conference, Minnesota, despite the loss, they stay on top of the Central Division as they've got 88 points. They're 3 points ahead of the Chicago Blackhawks. Then you've got Nashville checking in third there with 73 points. In the Pacific, San Jose has 83 points. Edmonton is second with 76, and Anaheim is third with 74. Your playoff or your wild card playoff team, are the Calgary Flames, who have 72 points, and the Los Angeles Kings, who have 68 points. So the Kings went out and they made some acquisitions at the trade deadline. They got Ben Bishop to secure and solidify their goaltending situation. Remember, Jonathan Quick has been out all year. He just recently has returned to action. And if he is not 100% healthy, they weren't 100% sure that they wanted Peter Budaj to be their goaltender down the stretch to try to get them into the playoffs and then maybe play in the playoffs. So they went out and they got an insurance policy with Ben Bishop. They also made a deal with the Colorado Avalanche to pick up Jerome McGinley. They did that on trade deadline day. That one is not – how that's going to turn out, I have no idea. But then they swung a deal with the Montreal Canadiens as well. So the Kings made some changes. Right now they're in a playoff spot, but it is a very precarious position because St. Louis is only 1 point behind them with 67 points. And then there's a drop-off. Winnipeg now with 62 points that's 6 points back. That's going to be tough for them with the amount of games that they have left to play. Dallas, 60 points. Vancouver's got 59 points. Arizona, 51. And Colorado, a league worst, 37 points on the season. So, it's tight over in the West, but it's tight between three teams vying for 2 spots near the bottom. Over in the East, it's much more of a battle here where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, definitely 4, maybe 5 teams that are vying for that last playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. So it's going to get tougher. Believe it or not, it is going to get tougher as it goes along. Nothing is going to come easy. It's the time of the year where absolutely nothing does come easy. But for the Blue Jackets, it is easy. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in past years, going to the playoffs, the 2 previous times this franchise has gone to the playoffs, this time of the year was hard. They were one of those teams that was chasing. They were the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were the team that was 1 point out, that was 2 points out, that were trying to get into that final playoff spot. And they were chasing, and they finally got in. Well, maybe the first time they weren't chasing as much as they were prior to that Penguins series a couple of years ago. But still, they weren't locked in. They weren't guaranteed. Look, this team was pretty much guaranteed by Christmas, right? I guess you can go all the way back to Thanksgiving because that's where that first imaginary cutoff line is. But at Christmas time, they were locked into a playoff spot, and they knew it. We all knew it. It was just a matter of continuing to play the way that you were playing. And even when they've dipped, they didn't dip so badly that it hurt them. I mean, here they are back in the second position in the division. Now that's that's pending upon what goes on tonight, because there are other teams in action tonight while the Blue Jackets travel up to Ottawa. The Penguins are playing at home against the Lightning tonight, so that will have some impact. Also this evening, let me just look at impact games here. I'm not going to go any further than that. St. Louis, I mentioned they're only 1 point out of a playoff spot. They're playing Winnipeg this evening. St. Louis is on the road, so that's a game with playoff implications. Calgary is at home against Detroit. It means nothing for Detroit, but it means everything for the Calgary Flames. The Islanders are on the road in Chicago tonight. That's going to be a big game. And as they play there, the Maple Leafs are in Anaheim to take on the Ducks. So, there's a lot of things to watch. It's finally that time of the year when scoreboard watching means something. And it means a lot. Means a lot. So now the Blue Jackets are getting set to go into Ottawa tomorrow, a team that is trying to climb to the top of the Atlantic Division. As I mentioned, they are, 4 points back of the Montreal Canadiens coming into tonight. No, 6 points back. 6 points. Ottawa suffered a lot of injuries. They also did make some deals. They got Alexander Burrows from the Vancouver Canucks. That's really the big thing, big acquisition that they got, because he's a pest of a player. He's going to come and bug you and be in your face and all that stuff. So they got him. They, they're trying. They're trying to get ahead of their own curve, if you will. Guy Boucher coming in there, coaching that team. They feel that they're better. Maybe they're a little bit better than they thought they were going into the season. So the Blue Jackets have to go there tomorrow, play against them. It's not an easy game. We've seen that. We've saw how the Senators beat the Blue Jackets here at Nationwide Arena a couple of weeks ago. They like to play a boring trap style of a game where you have to be very patient, which I think maybe is why it's important the Blue Jackets have played these two games that they have on Tuesday and then last night, because you've had to show a lot of patience in these games. You can't force things if things don't exist. And they didn't try to force anything last night. They were really good about just waiting it out. Just hold on to the puck for an extra second or two. Just wait for that guy to make one more move. They didn't try to force anything. Even when it was 0-0 in the third period, they weren't trying to do too much. They sensed that one mistake could be the end of them, and so they just simply didn't make that mistake. And they're going to have to do the same thing against the Ottawa Senators tomorrow. Then they go to New Jersey and take on the Devils. They're going to see the Devils a ton. You've got New Jersey in back-to-back games. You've got them in their building on Sunday at 5 o'clock, and then they're back here on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and then you're back in New Jersey on March the 19th. So a team that you haven't seen but one time all year, you're going to see 3 times in a short span. And, oh, by the way, that one time that you saw them, they beat you up. You looked disinterested, didn't look like you had any desire to play against that team whatsoever. The Blue Jackets will have to change that. And there is a little bit of a spark now. Little bit of a spark. They just made a trade on Wednesday, trading Kyle Quincy from New Jersey to Columbus, and Dalton Prout went the other way. So my point is there's a little bit of skin in the game, if you will. If Dalton Prout doesn't play in that game, I would be shocked on Sunday. And if Kyle Quincy doesn't play in that game, I will be shocked. So that gives you another storyline, and your players trying to play for that guy and help him to get a win over his former team. So a little bit more juice, if you will. But the juice for the Blue Jackets, really, in all honesty, is that they are headed to the playoffs, and they want to be playing their best hockey when they get to the playoffs. Speaking of Kyle Quincy and Lori Korpikoski, how did they do last night? Well, they did fine. They did all right. None of them, or neither of them, I should say, neither of them really stood out, and that's okay. They weren't brought in to be standout guys. They were brought in as a support staff for this team. Korpikoski did have one shift where he really utilized his speed, and he came in and he had a scoring chance, and he went all that. And I thought, boy, it'd be great if he scored in his first game as a Blue Jacket. Didn't work out, but anyway, he was in the conversation. He had a chance. He had a chance. And Quincy, just stay-at-home defenseman, takes a couple of shots, nothing flashy, but that's okay. They didn't trade to get flashy. They traded to get experience. They traded to get depth, and that's what they get from those two guys. So I thought those guys were fine yesterday. Didn't have a problem with either one of them. They didn't have a problem making the adjustment in game number 1. They'll get maybe a short practice today before we head up to Ottawa, and then we'll see. John Tortorella made it clear last night that just because they were in the lineup last evening doesn't mean that they're in the lineup every day. He still wants to use Marcus Nudavara, rightfully so. He wants to use him. Marcus has done a lot of great things for this team all year long. I'm sure he wants to get him playoff experience and have him in there, and you can't sit him for the next 2-3 weeks and then expect him to come in and do something. You're going to have to play him. You're going to have to get him in, get him out. A lot of guys probably. They'll get him in, get him out. Maybe some guys they can afford to give a break now that they have another solid defenseman. The same with the forwards. Maybe when everybody's healthy. You can't do it now because they don't have the health factor in their favor. But when everybody's healthy, maybe you spell somebody here or there. So we'll see. We'll see how they work it and how they do it. But I thought those two guys were fine last night. And, hey, again, that's why they're here. They're here to do what they did last night. They don't have to be flashy. If they get a goal, that's going to be great. Just go out and do your job, help your team to get a win, and that's all that matters. Before I get done with this full thought, I had a chance to talk with Kyle Quincy last night after the game, and I asked him about Sergei Bobrovsky in this conversation too. Listen to what he has to say.
Come right into a team that's looking to go to the playoffs, and you play a playoff-style hockey game here tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. That was a fun game to be a part of, and came right down the wire. So just happy we came up on top.
As a guy that's looking to get acclimated, just coming in on the first day, it's kind of nice to have a game like that where it's it's so much energy and it's fast and hey, you didn't make any mistakes. That's a good thing, and you get to fit in a little bit quicker.
That was a simple defensive style game for sure. And like I said, I think from going forward, it'll be better. So that was good to get a win, and we'll just keep getting better and better.
You played with a lot of good goaltenders in your career, and most recently Corey Schneider there in New Jersey. What did you think about Bobrovsky close up tonight?
That was just an amazing performance and definitely fun. He gives you a little more confidence playing in front of him when he's making those saves. That was very impressive.
And again, that's quite the compliment from a guy who has played in front of some good goaltenders in his career. Kyle Quincy playing his first game with the Blue Jackets last night. Now, everybody on the Blue Jackets side was happy about that win last night, but on the other side, the Minnesota Wild not very happy, and especially their head coach, Bruce Boudreau. He was not happy about the loss last evening, and he took some umbrage with the officiating in the game last night. I'm not going to tell you it was great because it wasn't great, but let's go back to Tuesday when John Tortorella was very upset with the officiating in the game in Montreal. And he came out after the game, and everybody was expecting him to go off on the penalty that was called in the overtime, and he just didn't do it. He sidestepped it. He took the high road. He did the right thing in that case because that was a very emotional one that I'm sure you could say a whole bunch of things that you didn't really mean. But Bruce Boudreau didn't do that last night. He went a different way. And he was really upset with the goal that got waved off. And I don't blame him for that. I really don't blame him for that. But, it goes by the rule. I mean, the rule is the rule. Even if it's a crazy rule, it is the rule. And I can tell you exactly what the rule reads. And this is what was sent out by the NHL last night after that review was made. It says it was determined that Minnesota's Erik Haula kicked the puck, which then deflected off the skate of Columbus defenseman Columbus forward William Karlsson into the net. And according to Rule 49.2, a goal cannot be scored by an attacking player who kicks a puck that deflects into the net off any player, goalkeeper, or official. So if you kick it and it hits another player, or if it hits the goaltender, or if it hits an official and it goes into the net, it doesn't count. It's not a goal. So by that rule, and there it is, black and white, plain as day. By that rule, it is certainly not a goal. Now, I'm not saying that they haven't ever ruled it a little bit differently. Looking at Mike Russo's story from last night's game in the Minnesota Star-Tribune, Russo says that Boudreau was not pleased with that rule being used to overturn Haula's goal. And then he goes on to say, frankly, if he ever sees the video of Antoine Roussel's playoff goal last year against the Wild, he may blow an even bigger gasket because Roussel kicked the puck over the net, off Devan Dubnyk's back and in, yet the NHL found cause to overturn a waved-off goal with that one. So, yeah, I will admit that. I'm not saying that it always goes the way it's supposed to go, but by rule, this is the way that it is supposed to go. But here's a quote from Bruce Boudreau that Mike Russo has in the Minnesota Star-Tribune. He goes, Rule 49.2, or whatever the dash mark says, an opposing player cannot kick the puck and deflect off any other player. Well, first of all, the puck wasn't kicked at the net. He was trying to kick it up to his skate because it was going 5 feet wide, and they put it in their own net. So I don't see how in Toronto that they're calling it unless it's a guy they just pulled in off the street that hasn't seen hockey before. I mean, that was surely the play, and I don't get it. So he just went out and said, unless he just pulled a guy off the street who's never played hockey before, sat him down in front of a monitor, had him watch the game, and make the ruling on it, I don't understand how that happens. So he didn't really take the high road with that. He was a little bit more upset and let it be known about last night. And again, he's got a point. And I went over this the other day after that, the long delay to review a goal in Montreal that by rule said is a non-reviewable play. I talked about this. So when he says, here's the only thing. When he says, unless they just pulled a guy off the street that's never played the game before, I do wonder, and I don't know the answer to this question. I've been to the Situation Room. I've talked to the guys that work there. I know there are former players. I know there's one former player, at least a former goaltender in Kay Whitmore, that is in there and is watching games. But I don't know if there is a former official, a former referee or former linesman that is part of the group that goes in and watches those games. I don't know if there is. I hope there is, because it would seem to make sense to have somebody with that type of experience in that room for situations just like this, right? I mean, it's comparing apples to oranges, I understand, but the NFL, when they're doing something, they've got an official that's looking at that replay. They don't have, somebody that, they don't have somebody that played. They don't have somebody that has just been around for a long time and done a whole bunch of administrative stuff and knows the game well and is sitting there watching a video. They've got, officials that, they have a replay official assigned as part of their crew in every building, and they go ahead and they take care of that. But, it's just like when you watch the NFL on TV, every network has a former official that they get on the horn right away, and they come on, and as you're seeing the play on TV and as they're reviewing it in the stadium, they've got this former official that's giving you his commentary and what he thinks is going to happen on the network broadcast. So, if you can do that for network television, I hope that you have somebody that's a former official in that Situation Room to look at these plays and go over them. And again, this one by rule was right. Now, did you know if that puck would happen to hit the stick, if Haller would have kicked it and if it would have hit Carlson's stick and then went in, it would have counted, but it hit his skate and went in and then it didn't count? Isn't that weird? Very complicated, isn't it? Very, very complicated. And just another example, if you will, why you should have somebody of that type of ilk in the room, somebody that knows that, somebody that studied that. There are plenty of officials here. There's a lot of referees that are disappearing from the game, that have retired in the last couple of years. I think there are a couple on the docket that are going to be done after this year. What about those types of guys? What about there's got to be somebody that lives in the Toronto area, right? You would think. And if not, offer them a job. Have them move to Toronto for the season and come in and be there to do that. You got to get more than one. You don't want to have one guy in there every single day. You can't do that. So you got to get a couple of guys. And again, maybe they have those guys. I don't know. I hope they do. But if they don't, it would behoove them to get those kind of people in there. And I didn't really think about that until seeing Boudreau's quote that said, unless they just pulled a guy off the street. Because when I went, again, I met people, and I remember, excuse me, I remember Kay Whitmore because I was sitting at his station. But the other guys, I don't know. And it didn't, from what I recall, and I'm really reaching back here, it didn't seem that there were that many really older guys. This whole thing gets me all choked up when I talk about officiating. I don't recall many older guys in there. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to go back again, but it would be interesting to know who they have on staff and if they have former linesmen, former referees, because that would just seem to make sense, right? Doesn't that just seem like a no-brainer? Maybe I should look into that. I probably will someday, but it's not going to be today. Busy day. Blue Jackets heading to Ottawa. They'll take on the Senators tomorrow, and then we'll be in New Jersey on Sunday. So make sure you tune in for those games on the Blue Jackets Radio Network. Until tomorrow, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.